Welcome to the Moving Past You radio show, a show about identifying, confronting, and embracing the obstacles that block and delay us in walking in our divine purpose. Each week, we delve into the complexities and rewards of walking in your purpose. Now, here's your host, Juanita Gaynor. Hello, everyone. It's Friday. Happy Black History Month. Yes, I was missing last week. I needed to take a break. We all do. But I'm so grateful you guys are here on this evening. Like I said, y'all been rolling with season 4 hard, and I'm so excited about that. Season 4 has just been amazing, and I want you to look at the show as a testament to when you're obedient. When you're obedient and you move how God tells you to move, because I couldn't have done any of this by myself. I have come in contact and spoken with some amazing women, and you've seen many of them, and I have so many more that has so many stories of triumph and strength. Others are just showing you how to, when you're walking into that healing, what is it like to dress in that part? What is it like to look the part? There's so many things when it comes to being in your purpose and being in your healing. And so I am truly excited about things to come. And so just a little housekeeping notes. What is it? The season's going to end probably early this season. There's been some questions about that, and I was like, let's go ahead and address that. And it's not because I don't love you, lovely people, but you're doing bigger and better things. We're doing so many more amazing things, and we want this to be a platform that you find purpose, you find healing, you find community. And so in that, it requires preparation time. So just know it won't be abrupt. We'll let you know when it's going to happen or whatever, but it's not happening no time soon. Like, we have February, March, and April coming fast and furious. So when I tell you about tonight's guest, it's perfect. This person has blessed my soul. And for anyone who knows, do you know that I do my pre-talks with my guests? Because, I do my pre-talks. And just like they're going to inspire you, they inspire me and open my eyes to things that, even though that I've been in my healing journey for a good long time, it doesn't mean I've thought of everything. It doesn't mean I think of how it's supposed to go. It doesn't mean that it hits me the same. So tonight's guest, oh my goodness, you're in for a treat. You are in for a treat, because if you've ever been the artsy, told that you shouldn't do whatever, you will appreciate tonight's guest. Now, I'm going to give you more details of why you appreciate tonight's guest. Before I introduce her, I'm going to say this, for a lot of people who knew me, I used to design. I used to draw. I used to, just be all in whatever. And I remember in the 3rd grade, my teacher just took my drafting book and just destroyed it. And I've never drawn again. Now I've gotten inspiration. I love to color. Y'all know I love to color. And what I love about tonight's guest is that she spoke something into me that was a confirmation. That's the first time she's hearing that, because she's in the green room. She can hear me. But it was a confirmation that some of the things and how God was moving is the right path. And so this is what I mean by obedience. There's going to be a lot of times you're going to hear somebody come across your airwaves, and it's that confirmation that what God has been telling you and how he's been telling you to move and what you needed to do and what your purpose is, or yes, you're on the right path of healing. And it's not going to always come from your best friends, because we think our best friends are our best friends for a reason. We do. It's going to come from someone that you least expected, and you're going to know and be okay and know that the message is what it is, because you know what? They don't have a dog in your show. They don't know you from a can of paint. They're being authentically and genuinely themselves. And so that is how my daddy liked to work, especially with me, because I'm hard-headed. But without further ado, let me introduce to some, and present to others our guests for this evening. And so we're going to be talking about arts as self therapy, wellness through creativity. Karen Deloach, she's a creativity specialist. Yes, she is. And she's a beautiful soul. Karen is a versatile professional whose expertise spans the realms of art, acting, and creative facilitation. Now, you understand why this is important. Sometimes you got to have these type of people in your corner. As an artist mentor and creativity specialist, she brings her wealth of knowledge to the classroom, where she teaches art history and appreciation at the college level using her own authored textbooks. She needs to be at my school because I got to take an art class. I'm back in school, so she needs to be there. Karen is an enthusiastic about sharing her insights into the healing power of creativity with diverse audiences. She derives great satisfaction from guiding individuals, regardless of their perceived artistic abilities, to discover and nurture their unique creative voices. Through her program, Art as Self-Therapy, Wellness Through Creativity, Karen empowers participants to overcome negative mindsets, perfectionism, and creative obstacles. Alongside her husband, Karen also serves as a home-based minister through their outreach initiative, Imagine Gatherings. Her unwavering dedication, I'm going to say this again, her unwavering dedication to the arts and her commitment to igniting creativity in others are central to her mission. So, everybody, welcome, Karen.
Hi. Oh my goodness, Juanita, that was so beautiful. Wow, I feel humbly honored by that great introduction. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for, being here. As someone who's an arty girl and who arts and creativity, has been a way to get me through a lot of things. I thank you for what you do because it's needed. So what we're going to do is I want to jump right into what started you on this path. Like, why? I know you had the arts, whatever, but what was it that said, you know what, I'm gonna use this, I'm gonna use what God has given me and use it for good?
Thank you for that question. I was woken up by God. You know how he can just speak to you when you least expect it. And he gave me that title, Art as Self-Therapy. Wellness through creativity. And I'm like, what does that mean? I've been teaching art 50 years. I've been an artist, um, actor all my life. And so this was a new direction. And I had been moving on to the internet. You know, we all did, right? These last few years. And so I was finding ways to teach visual arts through the internet and finding I was enjoying it more than I expected, even writing some textbooks and some books to use. And when he spoke that to me, I got on a journey to really study the science behind what I was already seeing happen because I've worked with students of all ages, all skill levels, and I have witnessed the miraculous healing power of the arts physically, emotionally, mentally, in so many ways in different ages. But it was cool to start studying the brain and the mind. I mean, obviously, I'm not a scientist, but just learning that what I was seeing manifest has incredible results in the mind and in the brain. And that was so exciting. And I know, and there are many people that are suffering, you know, through the isolation of those last few years and then finding new purpose in their life and finding healing. And so being able to bring to the table for people that don't necessarily identify as artists or artistes to find a way to exercise their own personal creative brilliance because we've been created with half a brain that is wired for creativity. And the best wiring, of course, is to have left, right brain working together. And so he's given me so many ideas and insights, and working with my clients and helping them do this has been incredibly rewarding.
That is so amazing. And so I like to jump into this area because I think COVID was what it did is it jump started a lot of people on their healing journeys and working in their purpose. Um, what has been some of not only the unique challenges, but maybe the unique rewards with COVID and in doing what you do, and how people have come to you for that type of assistance?
Well, I've taught in schools, in my own studio, in workshops, and I currently teach in a college in here in South Carolina. And so teaching online was really a stretch and was a new experience, lots of things to learn and very challenging. But what it does is it opens up the world. Whereas I can only fit a few people in my studio. It's not very big. I've taught in classrooms, and you're working with different ages, and even in the college, I have different ages that come through the college. But being on the internet opens you to the whole world. So there's just so many cool ways that you can get your message out that wasn't there before.
Wonderful. And how has the therapeutic aspect of art? I know how it works for me personal, but as a teacher, how has that, worked in the teaching and the therapeutic setting of working with students and possibly adults? How does that work? What does that look like?
That thank you. When you shared at the beginning your own story of third grader having your work trashed by a teacher, I want to cry. I mean, it is so sad to me that you got shut down for so long because of the cruelty and the misunderstanding of one person in authority over you. Those words matter so much to our very sensitive right brain. It's the part of our brain that God made to be intuitive and to be very inventive and imaginative. And we have these divine imaginations that He wired into every human being created in His likeness. And to have that shut down, even in one arena, because obviously it's not shut you down completely as a creative, besides all the, being a podcaster, creating all this incredible work as a radio show, even as you still are a designer and a decorator and very, very beautifully creative in the way you present yourself. Even liking to color is incredibly therapeutic. This is a real beautiful way that God has made us that we can get full use out of our personal brains to keep from brain fog, losing our mental clarity. It is so cool that all of these things we've talked about are ways that you can keep your mental acuity, even get healing from it. Now, if you don't mind, I can tell a couple of stories about some
Oh,
people.
absolutely. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I have had some incredible experiences. When we were homeschooling our children, I became the homeschool co-op art teacher, and I saw lots of different parents, usually the moms, working with their children, and most of us have different reasons. We bring our children home, and for
Yeah.
for many of us, I have very artistic children, and they're musicians and actors. They're not very good at sitting down and being quiet for 7 hours in classroom, so they weren't thriving even in private school. So bringing them home was because they needed specialized attention. And I found that to
Right.
be true with many students who came to my studio. Their parents, maybe they had some on the spectrum of autism, or they had ADHD or dyslexia, and quite frankly, were not thriving in an academic situation. So they felt stupid, they were discouraged, they were not succeeding, and the parents, of course, were just really upset about trying to get the best for their children. So they bring it to the studio and they thrive without exception. I'd find them be just drawing like crazy, doing sculpture, painting, and in the act of doing it, you're combining these left brain, right brain, and bypassing these other issues that then the parents would relate to me. You know what? They're doing better in their academics. So the success that they were having in the studio through their art, and I would enter their work in shows and they would get ribbons and feel, successful, gave them confidence and the ability to overcome some of these issues in their academics as well. So
Mhm.
that was just one area of feeling, like, wow, art really does make a difference in people's lives. But again, at that time, I didn't really understand the fullness of it. And then I had a student who he had dyslexia and ADHD. And so he was very much a student that was finding thriving through arts and not academics, but it helped his academics. So now
Mhm.
he's getting ready to graduate, and unfortunately, he got very ill and got a brain infection that caused a stroke, and he became paralyzed on the right side of his body. He had to have brain surgery multiple times. He has a plastic skull, believe it or not, and he couldn't talk, he couldn't walk, and his right hand was curled up, but he lived and was in the hospital recovering for 4 months. Well, when he got out, he still couldn't really talk. He could barely walk, and he wasn't using his right side. Obviously, very, very, very discouraged. But his mom brought him right back to the studio, and I endeavored to teach him how to draw left-handed. It's never too late. I'm just saying. Could draw left-handed and write left-handed. And it wasn't very long before he was succeeding in those. And then I get a call from his neurosurgeon. Now, this was shocking. He said, I've never called anybody's art teacher before. What are you doing with David? Because he
Wow.
is gaining function on his right side. His mom had told him she was bringing him to do art. So I didn't understand again, didn't really study the brain, how when he was in the act of using his left hand, he was engaging his right brain and he was engaging his left brain. They were making neural connections that were bringing healing to his
Mhm.
brain. And he does have some impairment in part of his brain, but he can talk, he can walk, and you wouldn't even know that he had had such a terrible time of it. So that was I mean, I'm still very close to his family. His mom told me he's had some other issues, but it is exciting to see. And she credits what art did for his life, not just saving his life, but saving him emotionally and mentally and having an outlet, a way to communicate, which every human wants. So that
That
was a beautiful
is,
experience.
yes.
And then another student, this was an adult student who was really talented and doing fantastic. She was taking ceramics from me and drawing and painting, and she was just thriving in it. And then she was diagnosed with late stage breast cancer
Mhm.
and given like a 6-month life expectancy. So she just jumped on with the chemo, radiation, all the things, surgeries. And I had a big show I was preparing for. It was a big ceramic show. It was a whole room installation. I had hundreds and hundreds of pieces to make. So I approached her. I said, Jan, why don't you work with me? She's like, I don't know if I'm going to be here in 9 months. I said, okay. Are you here today? Come to the studio. And every day she wasn't involved in some medical procedure, she was in the studio. We worked, laughed, created beautiful works of art together. And she was there 9 months later in remission. And she has been cancer free ever since.
Wow.
Now she's also a very close friend, and she said to me even recently, "I know that having that artwork to work on, to distract me, to encourage me, gave me something else to hope for and think about than what my body was going through." And she believes it really did make a difference in healing her. Now those are both very dramatic examples, and I did again, at that time, I hadn't been studying the science behind it. But
Right.
one thing I found out, and, you and I were talking about music and singing, that just singing, if you sang for 10, 15 minutes, you release serotonin in your body, which is the happiness chemical. It can lift up
Oh,
your spirits. So any kind of creative activity, it absolutely raises your emotional and mental well-being. And that is a scientific fact.
wow. And that's great because I think it's so important because so many times when we're dealing with, people who have gone through trauma, And I like to identify trauma for a lot of people. Trauma is not always, physical violence, whatever. It could be the car accident. It could be you falling, down the steps. It could be any type of trauma that's emotional, physical, or psychological. Um, Music and art is always a way to kind of soothe. Think about it. What are they doing with kindergartners? When they're going haywire, what do we do with kids? We give them paper and something to draw or to color with. And it keeps them focused and it keeps them occupied. And they're focused on something and they're building up, ideas and things that they have to do. So when it comes to healing, when it comes to purpose, I can definitely see, like, coloring is as a wonderful thing too. What do you think about that? Because I am a big coloring book girl. Like I didn't realize how bad I was. Not in a bad way, but I have several of the good coloring books. And I have the ones that I could pick up at any point in time. And I was doing it for a while, but then someone would be like, "Oh my goodness, that's so little kiddish," and I'm just like, okay. And I was grateful when they came out with the adult coloring books, but I want you to speak to, or just talk to or encourage those who like to do things like that, like, because we talked and you told me it's not childish. And so I
I
fully
believe
believe you. But, somebody may not believe me when I tell them that. Maybe they'll believe someone who actually works in it. But, talk more about that and how it does really help you on, the emotional and granular level of, standing your healing and working through things.
As I started studying this deeper, there are so many studies. There's even a neuroscience called neuroarts. And they did a study in Walter Reed Hospital, which is the foremost military hospital in the United States, for these troops that they've already been through their physical healing therapy, but they bring them in because they're emotionally, mentally still struggling, maybe PTSD, whatever else. And they bring them and they do this workshop one summer and they test it afterwards and they ask them, what was the best part of this program? And they all the number one answer was the art program. Now these are soldiers. These are not people identifying as artists. They all enjoyed what they were doing with their hands. And so it's very much not just a child thing to draw or color. And I love that they've come out with adult coloring books. I think it's brilliant because you mentioned one word, focus. It does help us focus when we're either singing or playing music, learning, doing an instrument or drawing or coloring, any of these things focus our brain. They reduce serotonin, reduce cortisol, which helps us bring our stress level down. We all know we need to bring our stress levels down with this high-paced world we're in. And then the serotonin, I already mentioned the happiness chemical. So as we're reducing the cortisol, getting peaceful, we're also elevating our mood and our emotions, our and whenever we rest our logical, orderly, very time-centered left brain, which is all brilliant stuff, but when we rest it, it allows that other part of our brain to come to the forefront and be engaged in something that brings us joy and peace and fulfillment. And that connects the two hemispheres. More connections, the more brilliance. And you will never have to deal with being replaced by an AI, that is doing all these left brain skills, because they will never replace human soul, imagination, and creativity. So that keeps us relevant too. So don't think of it as a childish activity. Think of it as, I'm healing my brain, I'm healing my body, and I'm going to try blue right here instead of green. There is no wrong way. And that's another thing the scientists found, is this stuff works even if you're not good, even if you're not an artist, even if, we get so hung up by the product, and we get, that's again, left brain, not right brain. I know I'm simplifying, and people that are really understand neurology are saying, she's simplifying this. I am simplifying this. I admit it.
Right.
I admit it. I'm not a scientist, but I've seen it work, and it brings more and more of these connections. And it works for in so many simple ways. Can I give you some more examples?
Sure, absolutely.
Now we've talked about singing, and we all love to sing more or less. Some of us just do it in the shower, right? Well, guess what? They've even studied that. They've actually studied what happens to your brain singing in the shower. Isn't this wild?
Wow.
So there you are, rub a dub dub, right? Scrubbing in the tub, and you're singing your favorite praise song, or you're just singing what was on the radio last. And you get out, and you're feeling good, and you get an idea crosses your mind. Maybe there was some puzzling thing at work that you hadn't figured out, or a solution to maybe a relationship question, or something you needed to say, and it just came to you. Well, while you were resting your left brain logic critic, and you were just letting yourself sing as you scrub, you were actually working your brain as those hemispheres were connecting just through singing in the shower. Isn't that
Wow.
awesome?
It
Simple,
is.
right?
It
So don't let anybody
is.
tell you, stop singing in the shower, sing in the shower.
See, that is so wonderful because again, you're right, we've become so analytical, and I can be both. It's like I favor both sides of the brain. I'm an accountant, and so it's whatever. But as someone who's with ADHD and stuff and post traumatic stress disorder, sometimes it fights with the logical brain, and it's just like sometimes I'd be like, I just want to go into my fort and color and hide all adult, things. I don't want to do nothing anymore. And you're right. I do feel so much better when I do it. I haven't been able to do it a lot lately. I know why though. I need some pencils.
Hmm.
I'm gonna work that out. You know how you have I have for good friends who gave me great coloring books, but us as artists in any type of way, certain crayons can't touch this one. You need the good pencils to touch it.
Or
And
the good sharp markers. A lot of those are really sharp markers are really fun to
yeah,
use for those too. That
so
there's all kinds of new utensils they have to go along with those beautiful those beautiful coloring books. Yeah, those are all so fun. Yeah, the thing that I understand we want all of our brain to be working, right? We don't want
yeah,
just, I mean, the logic and order and analytical and chronological things, memorization. Those are all beautiful, and we don't want to lose those things. Um, and those are what we learn in school, because you ask a room of 5 and 6 year olds, do you like to color? Do you like to draw? Do you like to bang on the drums? Do you like to sing? Do you like to dance? Do you like to play on the jungle gym? They're all going to say yes to one of those things, right?
right.
But ask a room of 15 and 16 year olds that same question. About 10% say yes. So what happened in those 10 years?
Yeah,
It wasn't that they lost their creative gifts or drive. It was trivialized at best. And the left brain, which is easier to measure, it's easier to train up, is what we focus on in our modern education system.
right.
More so than ever. Kindergarten's about the last time they get to color and play without thinking about
Wow.
it. And it's some places are better than others, some schools are better than others. I shouldn't make it all in one lump sum, but the reality is that most students leave school not feeling creative at all. Just those
Wow.
10% artsy ones. And
Wow.
I'm here to say that we have a need, no matter how old we are. It's not too late, because we have a need inside of us to express ourselves creatively. And there's so many ways to do it. Like trying a new recipe. Guess what? That's creative. That's exercising left brain and right brain and having those connections. And then you end up you have something wonderful to share with your family or friends to eat. Or something as simple, believe it or not, as taking a stroll. Now,
Mhm.
we're in this culture that we got our Fitbit that's counting every step. We're trying to be aerobic and meet our quota, right? I'm not talking about that kind of walk. I'm talking about where you look at the sky and smell the roses. Listen to the crunching leaves under your feet. Hear the birds singing. Hear the
Mhm.
children playing on the playgrounds. 10, 15 minutes of just breathing, relaxing. Maybe walk with your friend or your spouse and chat or not. Or, sit find a bench and have a journal and write your thoughts or not. Or have a sketchbook with a marker or pencil or not. Because doodling, do you know that doodling brings as much development in the brain as being an artist of realism?
Wow.
Because, realism, especially if you're doing portraits or things, it's very easy to tell if it looks like somebody or not, right? You don't have to be an artist to say, "Oh, that drawing isn't that great." It doesn't really look like that person. So
Right.
somebody can draw a person to look like the real person, they're a really good artist. But that person that just sat in the park with their markers and pens and doodled and just drew, do you know that they actually have measurable development in their brain and healing and restoration in their body?
Wow.
It's supernatural. It is so wonderful how we have these ways that can be fun and actually bring us healing at the same time, or just a greater sense of wellness. We feel good, just like when you're singing in the shower and you get out, rub a dub dub. Even if a new idea didn't pop in your mind, you just come out of the shower smelling good and feeling good at the same time.
That's wonderful.
I'm an advocate of singing in the shower, but there's so many ways to be creative. Some people, I mean, one of our sons, I said our sons are musical. Our third son, everything was a drum. I don't care where he was, whether it was a desk at school, wherever he was drumming. Guess what? He's a drummer. And then I have a personal story. So, I was a little girl, loved to color, loved to draw, but you know what? The paper was never big enough. So, bless her heart, my mom ended up coming in, and Karen has her paper up on the wall and has been coloring on the walls again. It did not go over big, but she had no way of knowing that someday I was going to be a muralist and people were going to pay me to paint and draw on their walls.
Ooh. Yeah.
Anyway, and when I talk to my clients, I say, let's look at what did you enjoy doing when you were 5 years old? What made you feel joy? What was fun for you if nobody was looking? Because sometimes people get shut down really early with words from parents, words from teachers, words from, even Sunday school teachers can really hurt because our right brain is very sensitive, and those words matter. Just like you
Yeah.
described being in third grade and
Mhm.
getting so damaged by one person's reaction to what you were doing.
Yep.
Now imagine if you had had the opposite response from her. "Wow, Anita, this is awesome. These drawings, these designs, you're brilliant. You have so much potential in this regard." Makes me want to cry when I think about the wasted time. And I have an experience like yours. I was older. Um, I was in art school at the time. I was a teenager still. And I loved theater. I was still doing theater, and I loved sports, and I loved art. And to be honest with you, I could draw, but I wasn't a good painter. I didn't know how to paint. So
Mhm.
I made painting my major, and I had 4 different painting teachers and in the course of my college years, and they all came to the same conclusion that I wasn't good enough. That they used 4-letter words to describe my paintings.
Ooh.
And guess where those words went? Ugh.
Yep.
You talk about the different ways to be traumatized. So
Yeah.
for decades, I couldn't finish a painting. I switched my major to sculpture, went into ceramics and art history, and I couldn't finish a painting because guess what? I came into agreement. I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Now, I'm happy to say that I ran across somebody who mentored me in painting. He had been to the Art Institute of Chicago back in the day when they still taught how to paint, and
Wow.
he taught me the skills and techniques that I needed to build myself up because I wanted to paint naturalistically. I wanted to do portraits. I wanted to do landscapes. I wanted to look like them. And I didn't have the skills I needed. That was the problem. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't trained enough. And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to blame those teachers because I've had to forgive them, because I came into agreement with it. I believed them. So I had to change, get my mindsets. And I know you talk a lot about, changing negative mindsets. And this was one that those left brain words, of
Yeah.
the critic was like, no, you'll never be good enough. And they were
Right.
so wrong. It was so wrong. And it's not true about you either. You are absolutely good enough. Everyone listening to this has something in their heart that they have wanted to use to express themselves from the inside out. It's not
Yes.
too late, and you are good enough. And I got to the point where I became an award winning painter. Like I said, people paint me to do murals, and that would not have happened if I hadn't run across a mentor to help me get past my negative mindset. And I'm here, Juanita, and I'm offering to teach you drawing classes. I tell you what, it wouldn't take us hardly any time, and you'll be drawing
Ooh.
like a pro. So take me up on that. You
I
know
will.
how to
I
reach
will. I will. I feel I would
even
probably
just
have my whole fashion line by now. I'm gonna be honest. Like, sometimes I do think about it. It was just like I would probably have an entire complete fashion line because I think of outfits and whatever, and I think you're right. Like when someone tells you that, I know I've healed and transferred in a lot of areas, but it's like me actually doing that drawing or sketching out stuff or whatever. It's just like, I'll do that. I'll do it later. I just leave it. I'll do it later. And so, and I know how there may be so many others who are at the same boat. And it's like, yeah, I'll do it later. And it's not that they don't want to, but again, it was crushed. It was crushed at a core moment in their lives. And I think not think what happened for me after that was finding other ways to cope with the trauma that I was dealing with around me, because that's what I used to deal with drama and cope with everything that was going on bad that was happening. So it's like, I want instructors and teachers to understand that when you do that to a child, not every child has another avenue to foster or help their trauma. So it changes into different things that they use to cope, and sometimes it may be something that is not good to cope.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
talking about healthy ways.
yes,
Yeah, to
right,
cope and express yourself, because we know there's a
yes,
lot of unhealthy ways, and we probably all tried those too in our lives. And
probably at
it's
some point, probably at some point.
and the,
You
the goal
know,
is to be our best us. What is holding you back in your personal ability to express yourself in healthy ways? Because every art therapist, now trust me, I'm an artist and an art mentor. I'm not an art therapist. That's not my area of study. I've just looked it up and studied it because I was interested for my students' sake. But there's just all the experts agree in the healing power of art, that there is something supernatural that happens in our minds and our emotions and our brains when we release ourselves. And it can be writing, journaling, just, the thing that I've found is a lot of us, especially if we're hardworking, maybe type A, we deal with perfectionism. And what's the difference between wanting to be perfect and wanting to be excellent? Excellence doesn't have to be perfect. And we don't really understand that, because guess where perfectionism is? That
oh
left
yeah,
brain bully that's in,
yeah,
as I call it. And I'm being, again, you neuroscientists, please, I understand I'm being simplistic here, but there is definitely voices that try to talk us out of these things that is in us. We want to do it. Maybe it's you always wanted to dance, and now my husband, one of my favorite Christmas presents was he bought us ballroom dancing classes, and we ended up doing
oh,
that. And we even brought our children and our pastors and friends, and we ended up doing that for about 4 years, just really enjoying dancing. Were we wonderful? No, but do we have to be? No, we had a blast. We had
that's
fun. It was good
wonderful.
exercise, but it was mostly, very, very fun thing to do. There's ways that you can express yourself that nobody has to see. This is it. It's it's personal. I've always been a journal person. Write my letters to God every day. Just and I didn't know that I'd end up writing books. That wasn't in my mind, that I have a how to draw book, how to paint book, and then in 2000 I ended up writing art history and appreciation textbook for my art class in college because I teach in a more rural community. It's not an urban state really. It's part of the
Right.
state that most of my students come from small towns and they don't have much opportunity in their school systems to take art or to study art or to really appreciate it at all. And so I figure I got one shot at them, one shot to show 'em
Yeah.
lots of images. There's 18, and actually a publisher came to me through the school about it. And I thought, I think I know my students now. I think I know what they need. And there's 1,800 images. There's, a lot of local people or famous artists that are from their kind of culture that they can grab a hold of and say, "Wow, this artist understands me and where I'm from," and find somebody they love. Most people have a taste in music. They know what kind of music they like, but do they know what kind of art they like? What they want to put on their walls? What they,
Yeah.
as you as a designer, what the way people dress, what clothes they wear says a lot about us. It can give us confidence or take away our confidence. So
Yeah.
these visual ways to express ourselves, um, are part of our humanity. It's part of our uniqueness as
Yeah.
individuals made in the image of God with 10 different fingerprints. Even they say our ears are all unique. Every ear is different. I mean, that's talk about creative, made in our creator's image. We have it in
Yes.
droves. What is your way to communicate and express yourself? Because it will bring you so much joy and healing and restoration and wellness to practice it. And we call ourselves practicing artists because we always are practicing. We're trying new things and we're learning as we go. And
Yes.
that
Yes.
willingness to not be perfect at first or to not succeed at it all. If you can
Right.
just have a good time doing it anyway, when I teach drawing, people aren't allowed to look at their paper. What? They
What?
can't erase or use a pencil. We're using markers or crayons. We're not even using anything that can erase because at first we're getting totally into our as we're focused, we're cutting into our right brain, and then we're using a utensil, which is our left brain. So we're making these wonderful synapses and connections in our brain, and that is being recorded into our subconscious, what we're looking at and
Wow.
studying. And it is all about what's going on in your mind and body, not what's going on the paper. And it
That's
gets us
awesome.
past that performance orientation, perfectionism, and product orientation, and not what is happening to me as I'm expressing myself this way. Is there a wrong way to be creative? I guess only if you're hurting somebody, but otherwise, it is all good. And these experts, they say between 15 and 20 minutes a day. So, and it doesn't even have to be consecutive. So if you wrote 5 minutes here and sang 5 minutes there, and you just
Yeah,
start enjoying finding those connections are happening, and there's an elevation in joy and in appreciation.
that is wonderful. So I know what I want you to do. I want you to tell me so much more about your ministry. Um,
Oh,
I want you to tell me about the ministry because, well, first of all, we are first God believers and God seekers. And when we were talking about that, that just gave me such joy about how everything is being brought together for like love and light. But I want you to go into more detail about your ministry, the name, what it does, what you do with it, and how people could find you if they want to partner with you.
thank you. Yeah, my husband and I are ordained ministers where we help co-pastor a small gather called Imagine Gatherings, and we are basically people that are identify as creatives, and we meet on Saturday nights, and when we can. We don't meet all the time, but when we can, because sometimes it's like corralling cats, right? When you're trying to corral artists and musicians, and some are singers and musicians and artists and cooks. So we have a full gambit. We meet, we eat together, we fellowship, and then the word comes forward and we worship, and it's just so free. And first and foremost, Holy Spirit's in charge. We let him be in charge. And when I got saved, I remember thinking, I was in art school, what do you do with an artist? What can you possibly do with an art person, art theater person? I couldn't even imagine that there was a whole part of his word about creativity with Hazael and Bezalel, who was the very first mention of Holy Spirit filling someone. It was a creative artist who was working on the Solomon's temple. So,
Mhm.
I didn't know any of that when I first came to the Lord, that he has a purpose in the arts and entertainment. It's for our joy and for our pleasure. Um, and so we are, and my husband and I have a ministry for people struggling with sexual and relational brokenness, addiction, and so many people have been had childhood sexual abuse, and so we do counseling ministry. It's a lot of the creatives in the church that suffer, because a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
people have had it, and the creatives seem to take it harder, maybe have some identity issues with it, and that has been a very rich and rewarding part of our lives together, where we help reparent and see God heal people and turn their
Mhm.
lives around and find who they really are, and the fullness of Christ. So that's, the arts are part of who we are, one way or another. Music, art, dance, writing, singing, these things these things stir us and touch us deeper than our minds, deeper into our soul. And I just want to encourage every person to really, pray. What does God have for you more? It's not too late, as I can tell you. And if you wanted to get in touch with me, you can, get in touch with me through Facebook, Karen Deloach. And I definitely would we can contact and talk about, if you'd like me to work with you. I always have workshops, group things that I'm doing for people. But most of the time, with my real in depth teaching, where I do art as self therapy, wellness through creativity, is one on one. We really get deep and involved with what how I can help you and mentor you and train you and help you, be even hold you accountable to get that in every day, that moving towards the fullness of your own legacy and fulfillment as a creative person.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to come up there like one Saturday and be like, okay, I'm gonna have to come in town and be like, okay, I'm in town,
We might ask you
one
to sing, though.
Saturday.
God might ask you to sing. Talking about obedience. That might be what God says. Okay, Juanita, you're up, girl.
And the thing is, and I tell, as I'll be 50 this year, and I'm this particular year I'm leading what I call the chapter 49 road to 50. It is doing things, clearing out old things, closing certain chapters, opening the new chapters, and being ready to move the way he wants me to move. And so I receive that because he says I've learned that being obedient to him is just the best thing. You know,
You know what? We still need clothes designers, girl. You
I gotta
know,
think about that because I have a
I
whole
don't
bunch of
wanna
stuff in
look like
my
a
head.
kid, but I also don't wanna look like an old lady. I'll be 70 in 3 weeks, and I'm still
See,
not
that
I don't feel
that's
like
what
an
I
old
don't
lady.
believe. That's what I don't believe. I'm still struggling
Here's
with that one.
here's my mama, 92. Am I gonna be 70, mama? Am I gonna be 70?
Yes, she is.
And see now you want to tell me that Mama's 92. I'm okay. I don't know. I have to reconcile that one.
It's that good Norwegian stock. I don't know, but
Oh my
yeah. Yeah, her
goodness.
mama was 96, still going strong till the end. So, we really appreciate that. That's why I'm saying it's not too late. You're not too old. I am brand new at this world of online, and I'm not too old, and I'm learning new things all the time, and so can you. And it keeps us alive and thriving and not giving in to everything they tell us that's supposed to be happening to us when we're older, right? So you are a young whippersnapper at 49, and I had one of my baby, I had two of my babies when I was in my 40s. Yeah. No, 39 and I mean, yeah, and 42 I had babies. Yeah, still nursing at 45. So girl, you got plenty of life. The best is yet to come. I'm telling you, I'm prophesying over you. And you know what? You're going to design clothes for real women.
Thank you. I accept that. I do.
And you just need a few drawing lessons
I
to get
do.
your
That's no
confidence back.
lie.
It's in you. You just need to get your confidence back.
Yeah. Yeah. It is the confidence, and you're absolutely right. And I'm grateful to how I've leaned into my healing because 5 or 6 years ago, I would have never admitted that,
Mm.
and see, this is why I do the show because again, I like to be transparent about my walk. I like to be transparent about even my own struggles in my healing process because healing is a multifaceted journey. It's not just one sided. It has little many sides to it. You think one area is good, but then another area still needs to be healed.
Mhm.
And so, for the viewers and the listeners alike, I like them to know that it does. Yeah, you may be struggling in this one area, but it's okay because someone else is struggling in that area too, and there's going to be someone that comes along to help speaks to that area that'll help you heal in that area. So, I so thank you for the gift that you've allowed. You're walking in the gift that God has given you and being obedient because I know it can be scary. You know, it can
It
be
is.
scary.
You feel very, very vulnerable when you share your work. I have a Facebook group if you're interested in called Christian Creatives. It's a private group, but we are visual artists. Just sometimes people showing something for the first time to other people. Some of my clients that I've worked with love art, but they just don't like their work so bad they would never show it to anybody. Just like some people won't sing in front of anybody, and getting that confidence up and the skills, just enough skill development to feel like, okay, I can be vulnerable enough to share this, and it'll bless somebody will be blessed, because we're all uniquely different. There's not too many musicians or singers or artists. There's not enough of us. We're taking back the arts and entertainment mountain for the kingdom of God. So we need every one of you to be writing what you're supposed to be writing, singing, creating, writing songs and playing instruments and drawing and painting and coloring inside or outside the lines.
Coloring inside the lines is overrated. Overrated. It's overrated.
Yeah, and just discovering your own true path of fulfillment in the creative arts. And most of the people that I know that are identifying as creatives, there's not just one thing they love. There's usually many ways that they enjoy creating. So that's fun too, to discover all kinds of different ways.
That's wonderful. So as we're wrapping up, I would love for you to give some words of encouragement for those that know they're going through healing. They know they love to be creative or whatever, but they just kind of feel stuck. Like just some words of encouragement that, you can give them to help them know that one, God has them, and that whenever they're ready, you'll have them too.
Well, that's there's a couple things I'd like to share. So if you decide, yes, I'd like to explore this part of my mind and brain and giftings. One thing that I found very early on, because of my experience and the experience of others, like Juanita has described, is you create a safe space, a no criticism zone. No criticism, because guess which side of the brain criticism and critiques and analytical stuff comes from? That left brain. We don't want it to be dictating what's happening. So you make a safe space and say, this is going to be this is going to be safe where I can be free to try new things. And as you create that safe space mentally, emotionally, maybe even physically, maybe you need privacy, you find that closet or that small place where you can be private while you try these things. Also, give yourself grace, the same grace you would give any beginner or anybody trying to do better. The same grace you would give to a child that's trying it, give to yourself. Be gracious to yourself. So that's my words of advice.
Karen, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Um, it's it is it's been amazing. I'm so grateful for this connection because again, I didn't know you were a connection that I didn't know I needed. How about I say that? So I'm grateful that you thought it highly to come and share your work, your story with others as well. So I appreciate your obedience to walking in your path to
Thank you.
do what your purpose is.
Thank you. You are a delight and a warm and encouraging and a beautiful hostess. So thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. So, see what I mean, everyone? Like season 4 is what it is. Obedience is king. And I'm enjoying and loving the fact that I'm walking in that obedience and that you're here to walk in that obedience as well. Again, if you want to reach out to Karen, definitely, this is her Facebook page. Definitely connect with her, reach out to her. It's www.facebook.com/Karen, CarenDeLoachart. Go ahead and do that. And if you don't, you're like, okay, if you want to be absent-minded, you can find her information as well on the show's page, movingpastyou.com, and you can reach out to her that way, or you can reach out to me and I'll make sure that that information gets back to her. And so we will see you on next week, the same time, same location, with another amazing guest who is here to share their love, their light, and their purpose. Take care, be blessed, and be kind in everything that you say and you do. Love you, and we'll see you on next week.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Moving Past You radio show. Make sure to visit our website at www.movingpastyou.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes. If you found value in the show, rate us on iTunes or simply tell a friend about the show. And be sure to tune in next Friday for our next episode. And remember to always be kind in your word, your thought, and in your deed. Be blessed.